The pathogen I've decided to do my presentation on is late blight in potatoes. In this presentation I will be going over the pathogen and the problem, the spread and life cycle of the pathogen, control measures, and then a short summary. Firstly, we will be talking about the pathogen. Here you can see the pathogen under a microscope. So some background on the pathogen is it's caused by an organism called Phytophthora infestans, which is an oomycete. It's eukaryotic and very similar to fungus. It can reproduce both sexually and asexually. It's a hemibiotroph and feeds off family members from the Solanaceae family, which is like potatoes and tomatoes. The distribution of the disease is worldwide, and it thrives in high humidity, temperatures above 10 degrees, and wet weather. So the pathogen is a big problem because late blight is a very serious disease in potatoes. It even caused the Great Famine in Ireland during the 1800s. Late blight has the potential to completely destroy potato crops if nothing is done about it. It's a hemibiotroph, which means it starts off as a biotroph and turns into a necrotroph, killing its host plant. And the disease leaves potatoes vulnerable to other microorganisms, so that tubers which are not destroyed by the blight itself are often destroyed by secondary fungi and bacteria, such as soft rot. Late blight has both foliar and tuber symptoms. The foliar symptoms include irregular or circular lesions with dark centres, usually around the edges of the leaves. In wet weather, these spots enlarge rapidly and blight larger areas of the foliage. Dark brown discoloration of leaf stalks and stems is also common, and in humid weather, a white fuzzy growth appears. The tubers are also affected. The infected potato tubers are discoloured by a reddish-brown granular rot. The rot can penetrate up to an inch into the tuber. You can cut them open to see this. The rot continues developing after harvest. So the life cycle is actually quite complex because they can produce asexually and sexually. The asexual reproduction occurs when the sporangium germinates by releasing zoospores. The sporangia are formed when conditions are humid, usually during the night, and the spores are then dispersed during dry conditions, usually at daytime. They then germinate under humid conditions, and the zoospores enter the host through stomata to cause new infections. The sexual reproduction occurs when the two mating types pair to form oospores. These oospores have thick walls which allow them to survive long term. These oospores are often difficult to germinate and persist in soil and serve as an inoculum. This allows for genetic variability. The pathogen is spread in a number of ways. It can survive the winter in infected potatoes in storage or in infected tubers left in the soil by accident during harvest. It can be transmitted from infected tubers to infected foliage and then back into healthy potato tubers. The spores can be carried by rain, wind, and even animals and humans moving from one field to the next. Luckily, there are many control methods for this pathogen. Disease-free seeds can be purchased for planting. Volunteer potatoes and plants should be removed and destroyed. There are several late blight-resistant varieties of potato that can be quite effective, although no cultivar is completely immune. These should be planted if blight is to be expected. Application of fungicides is important throughout the growing season, and the development of forecasting techniques can instruct you when a fungicide application is needed. Finally, infected tubers should be removed before potatoes are stored. So to summarise, late blight is caused by an oomycete called Phytophthora infestans. It is a very serious disease in potatoes. It can reproduce asexually and sexually. It's favoured by wet, mild, humid weather. It can survive over winter in stored tubers, and there are many methods of control.